12 p.m. We host credible and relevant guests to discuss pertinent issues of national importance aimed at addressing people's concerns.
As a country, if we don't fight this vice of corruption seriously and with honest opinion without any bias, things will not be good for us.
UBC Radio Ground Zero, right here on UBC Radio.
UBC, ensure that the information you give out is factual but also objective, balanced, and complies with the legal and policy requirements for the media.
Ground Zero program is always live, loud and clear, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on UBC Radio, Butebo FM, West Nile FM, and Magic 100 FM, and live stream on YouTube. You can also listen to the repeated broadcast of UBC Ground Zero every Sunday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
Baby.
Welcome to Ground Zero Season 2, a show that brings you in-depth discussion ranging from politics, health, finance, sports, and so much more. Ground Zero Season 2.
Hello dear listener, you're most welcome to UBC Ground Zero. We're broadcasting live on 98 FM, UBC Radio in Kampala, 97.4 FM in Arua, 99.4 FM in Lila, and we are live and clear on another radio station, UBC Butebo. We are live on 96.9 FM in Mbale, 98.4 FM in Soroti, and 95.5 FM in Arua. We are also live and clear on another radio station, UBC West Nile FM on 98 FM in Arua, in Karamoja sub-region, in Teso sub-region, and Lango sub-region, and many parts of the northern part of this country. And we also live and clear on Magic 100 FM. We are also streaming live on YouTube. We just put UBC Ground Zero and you'll be part of this very important conversation. And remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel, UBC Radio and UBC Ground Zero. Ampaire Amon Otegar is my name. It is a very big privilege that you have just joined us wherever you are, those who are on radio and those who are live online. This is a very wonderful day that I believe you and I must be glad and rejoice in it. We are here to have another important discussion and conversation on things that are important in as far as Uganda is concerned. And today we are talking about something special and important. We are talking about tourism. And we are looking at repositioning Uganda's tourism industry and asking ourselves, are we on course? And I'm glad that we have been joined by a special team of guests who are going to discuss important issues of national development, but also address people's concerns in as far as tourism industry is concerned. We must remind ourselves that Uganda is earning a lot in the tourism sector, and it has recorded about 473,000 tourists in 2022. That is the latest that I have, and 2021 and 2022 we have those details in this very important discussion, and we're getting about 518 million US dollars, which is too much and too good to our GDP. This corresponds to 1.3% of the gross domestic product and approximately 12% of all international tourism receipts in the Eastern Africa. I am glad that tourism is a fast growing sector, supported by the fact that Uganda is ranked as top tourist destination and one of the three countries with 50% of the world's known population of endangered mountain gorillas and many things that people enjoy in touring and viewing in as far as Uganda is concerned. As according to Lonely Planet 2012 and CNN 2016 report, which ranked Uganda among the top 16 holiday destinations in the world. This is too good for Uganda that we are dominating the world in as far as tourism is concerned, and our flag is really flying high. We're asking ourselves how far we have gone, what are those opportunities that Uganda Ugandans need to tap into in as far as tourism is concerned, and what are the challenges that are within the industry? Where have we not perfected well? Where do we need to put a lot of attention and resources? Where do we need to invest as Ugandans in order to tap into the opportunities that we see in this very industry? In the studios of UBC, I'm glad to have been joined by Stephen Sanyi Masaba, is the Director Tourism and Business Development Uganda Wildlife Authority. Professor Will Bahebwa is the Professor of Tourism from Makerere University, and I believe has been a very good stakeholder in the tourism industry, and I've known him for promoting the tourism sector in as far as Uganda is concerned. It is a very big privilege and honor to have you gentlemen, and later on we're going to be joined by Moses Mauku, the General Secretary of Uganda Hotels, Tourism and Supermarkets, and we're going to have Bradford Ochieng, is the Deputy CEO Uganda Tourism Board, and you, the people of Uganda who are listening on radio and online. Privilege to have you, Stephen.
Thank you, Amon, and good morning to all listeners on UBC Ground Zero program.
Most welcome. Great to have you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, all listeners.
Most welcome to UBC Ground Zero, and we must thank you for sparing time to talk to the people of Uganda. Repositioning Uganda's tourism industry. Are we on course? Starting with Stephen.
Thank you, Amon, for that question. I must say that the course was disrupted in the last 2 years when we had COVID epidemic that came in. But before that, we had tourism numbers growing by an average of 5 to 10% year on visitors coming to Uganda, and also equally revenues and all attendant benefits were growing. We had a disruption, but I must say, yes, we are recovering, and all parameters show an improvement in terms of tourism numbers. People are starting to be active and doing business again. So yes, I must say we're on course, but this has been a deliberate effort of government and stakeholders to put things in place to go beyond what happened.
Interesting. Most welcome, Moses Mauku. You may greet the people of Uganda, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to engage you later on. Professor, we have just celebrated 60 years on 9th October this year, celebrating, but looking at the tourism industry, what are we celebrating? And repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, asking ourselves, are we on course? Looking at the 60 years that we have spent as a country being independent. Professor?
Thank you very much. And dear listeners, one thing we should know about Uganda and tourism is that we are making serious strides as far as the tourism sector is concerned. If we look at the country from 1960s when we got independence, there has been tremendous progress. But of course, as you know, we have had a number of wars. 1970s, let's say actually from 75 onwards, where we had political instability. So the pace of development was kind of affected, and actually most of the national parks, there was a lot of poaching. We lost a lot of animals. Hotels were occupied by soldiers, especially during Idi Amin's government. So the pace that we had started with, which we picked from the colonial regime, was affected. And that stretched up to 1980s, I think up to 86. Now from 86 onwards, the NRM government actually played a role, and we see a growing trend as far as tourism is concerned. So by last 3 years before we got COVID, I can assure you that the sector was seriously growing at all various value chain nodes, in terms of the development of the hotel sector, in terms of tour operation business, in terms of even guides, Uganda Wildlife Authority was doing a fantastic job, and is still doing a good job as far as conservation of wildlife is concerned. And Uganda Tourism Board was also playing a big role in as far as quality assurance is concerned, marketing Uganda. However, COVID had a serious interruption because it actually led to a complete close as far as travel is concerned. The airline industry went down, and Uganda was not an exception. So it is a fact that COVID seriously affected us. Now, as we are peaking again after COVID, now Ebola. It's very unfortunate because most of our colleagues in the tourism sector, the hotel, the tour operators, they are getting a lot of cancellations. But one thing I can tell the people of Uganda and those interested listeners is that the sector of tourism is a very interesting sector, highly sensitive to some of these epidemics, but then immediately it peaks very fast. You can see how we are peaking from COVID itself. We are already peaking. We are almost at 60-70%. But now we have gone back to about 30% of the normal operation of the sector. So this means that the way our government is handling Ebola, which is very good, if we can sail through it, we shall peak again. But one thing I can say, dear listeners, is that tourism is that sector we have in the country that can be pivotal as far as the socio-economic transformation of Uganda is concerned, because we have got all that it takes to move. So if I look at celebration over the last 60 years, yes, it was worth the celebration, and as far as tourism is concerned, we are on track so that we can be able to take advantage of all these resources ranging from natural to socio-cultural, to water-based and others, to be able to position our country to benefit from the tourism sector.
Interesting. Thank you, Professor. Moses Mauku, you're in hotels, you're in business. How far have we moved as a country? How are you tapping into the opportunities that we see in the tourism industry? And what are we celebrating as a country in the 60 years? We're looking at repositioning Uganda industry, tourism industry, and we're asking ourselves, are we on course? You, the people who are in business, are we on course? Mauku.
Thank you, moderator. I want to salute Ugandans who are listening to this program. And I also wish to take occasion to say good morning to my comrade here, Masaba, and the professor I'm meeting for the first time. On my part, I want to say that as Uganda, we are generally on course in as far as tourism is concerned. Personally, I'm not a businessman. I'm a workers' representative, especially for the workers that are organized under the tourism sector, food processing, hotels, the supermarkets, and the allied subsectors. So I will basically speak as a worker, while the professor and Brother Masaba speak on behalf of the other. But generally, I will touch a few things. One is that tourism generally is on track because growing as a country in as far as tourism is concerned, and to the fact that we have in the recent past, tourism had become the leading foreign exchange earner for the country, which needed to be facilitated and handled with a lot of interest by government, despite the fact that in many cases the operators have been complaining about the budgetary issues in as far as tourism is concerned. I also wish to express my sincere appreciation to government for all the efforts they have tried to put in to ensure that they develop tourism. Tourism development is not only earmarked in Uganda but all globally, and tourism has been growing at a faster pace globally, not only here. The number of tourists that visit Africa have increased generally. It is only our duty as Uganda to place ourselves in that space so that we can attract more. At one time, I think 2018, we were the most desired tourism destination center in Africa. So that was a very big stride, for which we have to salute the actors. However, we do all these things with a lot of challenges. When we strike such a stride in as far as development is concerned, the question is, how is government prepared to invest in the highest income foreign exchange earner to the country? When you go to the budget, the ministry is complaining they have budgetary constraints. You go to UTB, which is our eye, in as far as promotions are concerned, they are complaining about budgetary constraints. You get to UA, the biggest bull, they have budgetary constraints. So these issues need to be focused on by government if we are to steadily develop the tourism sector, for which we have no alternative, but it is one of the biggest or the strongest sector that can bring in foreign exchange. And I want to urge government to do everything possible to ensure that tourism survives. I wanted to also make mention of some of the issues that I think or we believe that could promote tourism. One is the promotion of domestic tourism. Here it has been a problem in that even Ugandans, we go and tour touristic sites in Kenya for those that have some money, and when they don't know even Maction Falls here. But I one time went to Arusha for a workshop in some hotel in the park. I found there a family on a tour, and when we interacted during lunchtime, I asked, do you know Maction Falls? They didn't. Do you know Lake Embro? They did not. So I was asking, why did you take interest to come and tour in Kenya when you don't know your own? The only, I think, tourist attraction they had visited was the zoo in Entebbe. The rest of the tourism sites that are even closer, they had not. But they had carried themselves bought a ticket to go to Arusha for 1 week in the national park of Kenya. So we need to deal with the mindset of Ugandans, because Ugandans, as we speak today, there are a reasonable number of Ugandans that have money that go to Dubai every year to tour, but they don't tour our own things here in Africa and in Uganda particularly. One time I went to China and went to Chairman Mao's palace. We were 12 Ugandans. During that time, we spent about 4 hours in that palace touring. Out of they said each day they have over 35,000 tourists, but 99.9% are Chinese. We only met, in 4 hours, we met 2 whites. The rest were Chinese, despite the fact that we also became touristic attractions because of our color. Some Chinese imagined that we are either metallic and they were even giving us money to touch our bodies, to whether we had flesh or we were metallic. So these things happen. But in many countries, domestic tourism contributes a very huge percentage of the income within the tourism sector. Here, we depend 90% or more on foreign tourists, which is not a very good strategy for the country. When COVID hit, we could not manage to do anything because we don't know that we are supposed to tour. Even when they actually opened up tourism for commercial purposes, there were no people coming into these national parks because everybody was fearing to travel those days. So we had no tourists, and for us, we don't have that thinking that we can tour. I want to also echo on the actors within tourism. Sometimes we discourage tourists, local tourists, the treatment that we get. Those few people that attempt to go to these tourist attractions, the treatment by the workers there is also quite disturbing. The treatment they attach to a mzungu is a little special than when it is you, a fellow black. So even the tourist operators, the hotel industry workers need to get some bit of basics of training that you must treat everybody equal. You get the hotels, you again find they have their tariffs, the room tariffs, the price list. They are all in dollars. You're operating in Uganda, you don't have price tags for you in Uganda currency. The only thing they have is dollars. Some Ugandans have a lot of money, but they don't deal in dollars. So somehow, some of these small things discourage. And we have a duty to continuously inculcate that culture of local tourism amongst ourselves if we are to thrive. Otherwise, if we continue depending on only foreign tourism, or the biggest percentage of the tourism being dependent on the foreign people, it is not a good strategy for Uganda. And we have to do everything possible to ensure that we encourage Ugandans to visit the tourism sites. The other thing that I want to also encourage is the training, the type of training, human capital development. These things have been listed among priorities by the actors, by government. The issue is, how are we getting these issues or aspects implemented? Writing them on paper is well and good, but what has government done? They have been reconstructing Crested Crane for the last 5 years. It is under construction. How do we construct an institute for all this long? It is not opening. Each time you pass there, they are still under construction. When we are littered with managers from Kenya. Most of the hotels here are managed by Kenyans just because they have utalii. So why wouldn't it be a priority for Uganda to put another utalii here, so that we train our own people who can manage our own facilities? And the hotels spend a lot of money on these expatriates from Kenya. A manager who does the same work will be paid maybe 1 million. The other Kenyan is getting 10 million. So it is also something that we need to focus on. Let that institute be done in good time. People begin training, and we not only have to rely on one institute. Recently, I also so happened to work with DIT as ITC member, and we went for supervision of these assessments being done. I was attached to the northern area. We found, I was dismayed really. Even the assessments that are being done, it is the students to buy their own equipment for testing. You get, so it is a very alarming. The equipment that people are using to learn what to do is so inadequate that actually the students or the children want to learn, but they don't have the adequate equipment to learn with. Okay. So when they come into the employment, they are offering inadequate services because they were inadequately trained and or skilled. And it's not their problem, but the institutions they go to, they don't have these equipments. So when he gets into a hotel, for example, somebody who was trained in catering and hotel management is looking at all gadgets are new. For example, in a kitchen, but he claims that he has been trained as a cook, but he has never seen the gadgets the hotels use to cook. He's using a saucepan, a small saucepan, on a charcoal stove, which you won't ever find in a big hotel, but that is where they are actually ending up. So we end up getting people who are also substandard in the service industry, and many other things.
Interesting. Thank you, Mauku. Repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, we are asking ourselves, are we on course? In the studios of UBC, I'm privileged to have Stephen Sanyi Masawa, Director Tourism and Business Development from Uganda Wildlife Authority. Moses Mauku, General Secretary Uganda Hotels, Tourism and Supermarkets. Professor Wilbur Hewa is Professor of Tourism from Makerere University. Baide Amon Utega is my name, and we are live on UBC Radio, UBC Butebo, covering eastern parts of this country. We're also live on Western Nile FM, covering Arua, Lila, Lango, and many other parts of this country. And we're also live and clear on Magic 100 FM, covering central parts of this country. And of course, UBC covers the entire Uganda. We're also streaming live on YouTube, UBC Ground Zero. You'll be part of this conversation, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Mauku, you mentioned of something that I wanted to bring on board during this discussion: domestic tourism. But before I go into that, we shall come to that later on. I would have to know, or any other Ugandan outside there listening to this conversation would have to know, what is Uganda best known for in as far as tourism industry is concerned. Let me start with you, Stephen.
I think following my colleagues' discussion, I want to provide a few updates on some of the areas that...
it's all right.
Yes, first you mentioned that tourism numbers in the last 1 year have been slightly over 400,000, and they generated over $500 million. Well, in your thinking, these figures are impressive. Well, I must say that before 2019, we used to receive over 1.5 million visitors, and the revenue to the country was $1.6 billion. So we indeed have gone down, but this also shows that we are trying to recover. So this is not the best we can do. We can definitely do better. I want to use Uganda Wildlife Authority's experience, because we are suppliers of ecotourism product. Our numbers went down by about 70% during COVID period. In fact, actually one time to zero. But in the first year, we realized 30% visitors. And in the second year, which is just ended 22 June, we have recovered up to 80% of the tourism numbers before COVID. And for end of this financial year, we are looking, if there wasn't this incident that we are talking about, we're looking to recover the tourism numbers. We are almost thinking to be the same level that we have pre-COVID. I want to say that yes, ecotourism is one of the things that bring people to Uganda, but there are also lots of other products that we need to talk about. The faith, I think of late we have seen government effort to support growth of the Namugongos, where the Martyrs Shrine, a lot of money has been put there. And the president has been visiting and all dignitaries to show the world that this is a very important site. So people are starting to see that faith can be a very good tool that we can use to promote Uganda. We also have the music festivals. We have grown local music brands, and people make festivals here that bring people from East Africa. I think if Chameleon put up a festival, Eddie Kenzo put up a festival, and others, and I'm sure some of these are planned. I hear there is one on 12th of November by Eddie Kenzo. This will bring East Africans here. Our music in the past has been used and played and loved by many. I've seen our people go to play in Kenya, even Burundi. I was there recently. When you sit, they play. Even Rwanda, it's actually our music that play. So music is one of those. But we have also got people who are doing a lot to support and bring tourism through sports. We have our own sports people that go and market the country. You have had these that have gone and won accolades all over the countries, and this is an opportunity. But also, when we go out and bring people, when we're also planning, we're planning a high altitude training institute at Teriet in Kapchora. That will bring people to come and train from here, and they will know Uganda. So there are opportunities besides the ecotourism that people can do. I see cultural festivals. The king of Toro climbed Rwenzori recently, and this is his region. He's showing the people and his followers that you can actually visit and enjoy your country, and we want to acknowledge and appreciate the kingdom for that. All of us can play a role. We have seen members of parliament, ministers, especially post-COVID, many of these are actually traveling and visiting the tourism sites. Ginger as a source of the Nile. There is a tourism master plan being drawn by government, and if implemented fully, we will see people moving and visiting the Nile and the East. Of course, there are so many things that we can do. Having said that, there are things that we can do to make Uganda known and better. Each one of us has a role to play. I think I want to start from the basic things, making this a beautiful country and environmentally protected and a sensitive country. We want to encourage people not to throw rubbish, not to litter, not to destroy the environment, because it starts with you. When Uganda is clean, the roads will be clean, the protected areas and tourism sites will be clean. Now, our neighboring country, there is one neighboring country where this is well done, and people applaud it. Why can't we do it? I hear Fort Portal now is one of those that has taken a leaf from the neighboring country and is doing a lot to promote tourism. We also want to go back. The last 2 years we're not coming together. The Uganda Tourism Expo, right? This is where we all rally behind the activity in the Uganda area. There is the Uma show here for traders. All this. I think there is this hill in Busoga where people climb. There is a hill in Busoga where people climb. And so many of these. If there is a Bugisu Culture Festival, the Kadodi, that circumcision festival, we can use all this to do and promote the country. We also think that recently government through Uganda Tourism Board has done quite a good deal in unifying us to market Uganda as one destination. We launched the Pearl of Africa brand, which markets us. So with Uganda, we're not Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. And the call to action, explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. So when people come, there is other countries which call themselves the heart of Africa, the soul of Africa, the spirit of Africa. But for us, we are the Pearl of Africa. And that brand is going to sell. That is one of the ways that is going to open us. But I also want to mention that because we are part of the East African community, there is opportunity for us to visit and call other people in. The East African community recognized the need for people to travel within, and they started a campaign called Tuende Nyumbani. It's let's visit home. Each country was trying to promote visitation to its own country, or even within the region. And that happened. We got some people come from Tanzania. We also traveled. And recently there was an East African regional tourism expo in Burundi. So because you need to know your neighbor and then other people know their neighbor. And from such interactions we can encourage and promote each other. So Uganda, in short, is well known for all ecosystems, natural environment activities. It is known for culture, known for mountains, known for beautiful lakes, known for good weather, good food. But what we need to do is to now work around to promote each one of these. But the role of promoting and making this a good product largely lies on all of us. Because my colleague Moses talked about the skill and presentation of this product when you go to a hotel. So the skills training, for example, it is very important. At individual level, I think we need to stop employing only relatives. We can also go ahead and add, a skill to it. And qualified institutions, HTTI is undergoing a revamp and renovation, and the funding was from World Bank. Yes, there have been delays because of the procurement process, but once it is established, it will provide the services for hotel sector. But there is one for training conservationists, Wildlife Training Institute in Katwe. Very few people talk about it. But if you want to manage Mavira better, you want to manage the parks, the trainings skills are derived from people that train in Katwe. Of course, people who trained a long time ago used to go to Tanzania to a college called Mweka. But really, we want to replicate Katwe to be the Mweka and the Ginger to be HTTI to be the Utalii of Uganda. So each one of us can do, even promote and develop a product at your own home. You even have agritourism. You have a small activity called B&B, bed and breakfast, so that in your own capacity, you can do something. And then for us, we can support you by bringing your visitors, into the protected areas, for which I hope I'll explain what you can see and enjoy there.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Stephen. Professor, why should we or government prioritize tourism as an industry rather than sports, where we are generating good money and our sports men are raising a flag in the world and elsewhere, or even not invest it or prioritize industrialization? How much is tourism contributing to our GDP?
Before I get to your question, I want to pick it up from my colleagues. For us to understand that the general attractiveness of this country, Uganda, is basically hinged on about 4 main typologies of attractions. And they have already talked about them, but I just want to bring that in the perspective so that Ugandans can understand. We have got what we call natural attractions. Natural attractions here, we are going to group all the national parks, we are going to group all the forest reserves, we are going to group all the mountains that we have, all the nice landscapes, the Rift Valley, the lakes and others in natural attractions. Now, as Ugandans and as government, there is a need to understand that these natural attractions were absolutely underutilizing them. And if I just give an example, Rwenzori National Park or Rwenzori Mountains, which is comparable to Kilimanjaro in terms of attractiveness. Of course, Kilimanjaro is the highest, followed by Mount Kenya in Africa, but Rwenzori is the third. But the third, the fourth, and the fifth peaks in Africa in Rwenzori, because it is actually the highest mountain range. We have got so many peaks in there. Now, when you look at the revenue generation in national parks, Rwenzori generates about 1% compared to other parks in Uganda. Of course, Windy taking it all because it generates more than 50% of the revenue. Now, this is comparable to Kilimanjaro, which generates, actually it is second after Serengeti. So second top in Tanzania after Serengeti. So we are highly underutilizing our resources. Even when you look at most of the parks, apart from Bwindi, the rest of the parks are actually coast centers. So as the areas for intervention where government needs to come in and invest and we encourage more visitations, both domestic, regional, international, we definitely still have a lot to do there. Look at our equator. I did a study on the equator, on the potentials of the equator. We started right out from Lake Victoria. We mapped this equator up to Chikorongo. This is another key resource, and we put in perspective other countries in the world which are actually reaping a lot of money from the equator. For us, we are getting nothing completely. So the interventions at every point of the equator, we showed where priorities can be, starting from Kayabwe all the way to Chikorongo. And in Chikorongo, actually, since it goes through the park, we recommended to UA that they can pass out some land where serious equator developments can be, and we promote it as such. But up to now, of course, nothing has been done. So that's another priority that we can look at. We can have an equator road. We can have equator golf courses. We can have equator hotels. We can have, and that becomes a pull agent as far as promotion of tourism along the equator is concerned. Now, all our water-based tourism, we are underutilizing them. If I start with the Nile itself, if you look at how much Egypt is making, the Nile-related benefits in Egypt, we are not getting even 1 out of 10 of what they are getting. Yet the source is here. We have had a number of plans for the Nile, but we have really not done much to benefit from the Nile itself. Talk about Lake Victoria, the second biggest lake in the world, and I think the biggest in Africa. I was telling people, what if we engaged even just at the regional scale, that we engage the leadership in Kisimu, the leadership in Mwanza, and then we encourage private sector to invest in, the cross-lake tourism, that you have got a vessel coming from Kisimu and people come and spend a weekend in Jinja, and some people from Mwanza spend a weekend in Entebbe. Do you know how much money would generate there and how many jobs would have there? Can we think of a ring road along the lake shores, starting from Entebbe, going to Jinja, so that I can go and have fun in Entebbe and have lunch in Jinja and the other way around? So you encourage a lot of activity along the. So even the lake-based tourism is still lacking. We really basically have not utilized it fully. Of course, there are so many interventions we need to do for us to make advantage of that. So I can go on and on and on as far as natural based attractions are concerned. Now, let me go to the man-made attractions, which are in two categories. There are those which are man-made attractions which were specifically meant for tourism. And here we have got amusement parks, we have got all these facilities we design for tourism. But then there are also those man-made attractions which were not originally made for tourism. For example, Bahai. I don't think when they were constructing that Bahai temple, they knew tourism would be there. I don't think when they were killing martyrs in Namugongo, they knew that tourism would be there. Those are man-made, but were not specifically meant for tourism. Kasubi, where they buried the kings, I don't think when they were burying them, they knew. Now, we have not taken advantage of all of those, harnessed them for tourism. Bahai is the only temple we have in Africa for Bahai. We have not really done much to promote it. My colleague Masaba has talked about Namugongo, serious religious tourism thing. We have just finished mapping with the Ministry of Tourism, the cultural attractions in the country, well spread in the country, that besides wildlife, which we are prioritizing currently, we can as well do cultural-based tourism, and still we have different circuits within the country that are focusing on that. Now, the magic as far as tourism is concerned is to make sure that you encourage people to move to different parts of the country, and in the process of moving, they are spending, they are sleeping, they are eating, and that's how we have a trickle-down effect as far as tourism is concerned. So these cultural attractions are not yet utilized fully, so we still have a gap and we need to prioritize. And I'm very happy that I think the Cultural Monuments Act is coming, and our ministry has already pointed in that direction. Now, we have got the last category, the fourth one, which has to do with events and conferences. Of course, we were critiquing Nyege Nyege the other time. But of course this goes back to government regulation, because anything can always be bad if you don't regulate it. But if you regulate it, the events like Nyege Nyege, the soccer and so many things can be poor events whereby we can have tourism booming as far as the country is concerned, even including attracting high-level conferences into the country so that we can have, convention centers in the country. This requires investment in convention centers and other things. So the opportunities are immense, but if I can summarize in the next 3 minutes, priorities. Priority number one, we have to do product development. Because before even we market, we must know what are we marketing. So here we need to look at product development. We need to look at our top priorities. Currently, we have got wildlife-based products. We need to diversify and make sure that we know what we are selling. And then too, of course, we need to do skills development. My colleague Moses already talked about it. And at the various nodes of the tourism value chain, so that we know the products, we have done research, we know what, if we are penetrating China, we know what they want, we develop these products, we develop the skills so that when these people come, people are able to present these things. And of course, now the third would be marketing. Very well tailored marketing where we promote our brand that we have already made. And then once we market, the next thing is, of course, supporting private sector, since tourism is private sector led, government guiding private sector very well, and enabling private sector to have access to affordable credit, and then they are able to offer a very good service. And then finally, government does the regulation to improve the quality of service, to make sure the sector moves in the right direction.
Interesting. UBC Ground Zero, we are discussing repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, and we're asking ourselves, are we on course? Before I go for a break, Mauku, Stephen Masaba mentioned of something that I think is important. The ecosystem. We are generating some good income from the eco-tourism products, but we are the same people who are destroying this in the environment, the way we dispose plastics and many others. As a leader of the people who are involved in the same business, what should we do in order to preserve not only the environment but also to protect the tourism industry?
Thank you, moderator. I would begin by saying that it remains the duty of everybody, every Ugandans, when it comes to issues of conservation and or protection of the environment. It is the duty of every person, because all of us are actors in the do's and the don'ts that can make environmental protection progressive. It is always the human person who is the big culprit in these situations. So we need to, one, is to have adequate regulation on how best it is done. And two, the practice that we have been seeing here. For example, we have these plastics. On many occasions, the Parliament of Uganda has pronounced itself, from today, no production of kavera. After 2 months, kavera is everywhere. So you wonder whose responsibility and role is it? They pronounce a law, then that law is put in effect for 1 or 2 months. The following month, you are having kavera everywhere. So I think government has to change its tactic in doing some of these things. Then even us, you find people who are driving, you are in a car enclosed properly. As you eat your bananas, you are throwing the peels in the roadside, not knowing that it can even cause an accident. When you braked on a banana peel, the tire will just slide. But we are doing all these dangers to ourselves, and either knowingly or unknowingly. So there is need for a lot of sensitization of the community on how to behave in a manner that conserves and in a manner that protects the environment. Right. However, I don't know if I have time, 3 minutes, I make some comments on what the professor and Stephen have said.
Let me give you one.
Okay, I wanted to just augment on their what they have presented in terms of promotion of tourism. One of the things today, we must emphasize e-marketing or digital promotion. Today, when you go on YouTube, Rwanda is an offspring of Uganda in terms of administration, but Rwanda is doing better in tourism promotion than we are doing. Everybody who watches matches this Premier League, the first thing you see when Arsenal plays, which has the biggest number, if not the second number of supporters in Uganda, is Rwanda on the jersey of Arsenal. When you go to the field, once you open Arsenal, one of the first things you will see is the tourism of Rwanda. Is it that Rwanda has more money than Uganda? Is it that Rwanda is more interested in tourism than Uganda? If somebody does something good, even when he's not a good neighbor, better to copy if you think it is going to promote your interest in your home. So let us, and good thing, Bwana Stephen is here, who is responsible for these things, at least you know where we work. It is good to copy certain good habits, as long as they promote the interests of the country. How we are promoting tourism, there is something lacking. People spend more time in workshops for officers. The little money that we are crying for on the budget, the biggest chunk of that money is spent in workshops here, in hotels. And workshops cannot promote tourism more adequately than when you actually, even if they hired younger boys and girls to do digital promotions on all social media forms, it would give us more money than some of the workshops people attend. Then there is this other thing of open adverts. I get enraged when especially when you are leaving Entebbe airport or coming into Entebbe. you find MTN everywhere. When it is not the leading foreign exchange earner, at the airport, all banners, you see MTN and other things. But most of the airports internationally, you will see billboards for tourism everywhere. But in Uganda, I don't know whether there is a problem that we cannot adequately advertise. We have even these signages. What is wrong having at least a picture of an elephant before you say exit? As a way to promote what we have. But you just find there very old signages at our airport, just blank, yellow, lighting yellow. Very archaic. But they can give such a tender to maybe Uganda Wildlife Authority to do for them signages that have a component of tourism as a way to promote. So I would like to urge the actors, UWA and UTB, to ensure that we utilize the airport to maximally advertise tourism. And also, where possible, let's do these billboards even in other airports or in other places outside Uganda. And we reduce on the budget for workshops, but emphasize more on promotions. And then Brother Stephen was consistently talking about the performing artists. Performing artists can do a huge, an immense job to promote tourism, but they are not properly coordinated. They do things on their own. You could even find, imagine the war that was between the different government agencies over nyege. The speaker is saying this, the prime minister is saying the other. We do not coordinate these activities that are actually geared towards promoting tourism. It's individuals springing up with ideas, and then they find mixed feelings by government agencies. So it is important that the workshops that sit should involve the real actors. Let us not look at a film performer as a useless person in the industry of tourism. A film performer. We can use them. We can use the musicians. We can use all artists. The cultural institutions play a key role, because many of these cultural tourism sites are actually where and are continuously being managed by these cultural institutions. So let us have all these players on board when we are planning. Otherwise, there has been a lot of poor planning or inadequate plan. It may not be poor, but inadequate. The type of planning that leaves out very many key actors, and people are struggling on the individual basis to do things. Then the country end up benefiting by mistake or by chance.
All right. Interesting. This is UBC Ground Zero. We're broadcasting live on 98 FM, UBC Radio. We're also live and clear on Butebo FM, Western Nile FM, and Magic 100 FM. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. I'm taking a very short break, and coming back in a bit. I pray that you don't go away. I'm going to receive your calls later on 776 511 426, and you tell us what you think needs to be done to promote the tourism industry in Uganda. UBC.
This is Ground Zero Season 2. Stay tuned. We shall be right back. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customary tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
We broadcast 24/7. Listen to UBC radio shows right here, right now.
Welcome back. Ground Zero Season 2 continues.
Welcome back from that very short break. Ampere Amon Obtegra is my name, and this is UBC Ground Zero. We're broadcasting live on 98 FM, UBC Radio. We're also live and clear on our sister radio stations, UBC Butebo covering eastern parts of this country, Western Nile FM covering Western Nile, Teso Sub-Region, Lango Sub-Region, and Karamoja Sub-Region, and other northern parts of this country. We also live and clear on Magic 100 FM covering central parts of this country, and we're also streaming live on YouTube, UBC Ground Zero, and you'll be part of this conversation. In the studios of UBC, discussing repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, asking ourselves, are we on course? I have Stephen Sanyi Masaba, Director Tourism and Business Development from Uganda Wildlife Authority, Moses Mauku, General Secretary Uganda Hotels, Tourism and Supermarkets. Professor Wilbur Hewa is the Professor of Tourism from Makerere University. And Baide Amon Otega is my name. 776-511 is the number that you can call, and you share your ideas and opinions about tourism and what you think needs to be done to promote the industry. 776-511-426 is the number that you can call right now. I pray that when you call, you distance yourself from the radio, or you reduce the volume of your radio, or you switch off your radio, because it creates that echo in the radio, and that destroys our ears. This is UBC Radio. UBC 776-511-426 is the number that you can call, and later on I'm going to be joined by the Deputy CEO Bradford Ochieng, is Deputy CEO of Uganda Tourism Board. As we can wait for him to be online, then we're going to be discussing and continuing with our topic today. As I come back to the studios later on, as we wait for the Deputy CEO to be online, I want us to look at the safety of our tourists. Whose responsibility to ensure that our visitors, when they come in Uganda, are safe? Because anything that happens to our visitors antagonizes the process of tourism, and all the efforts that we put in as government, as nationals, and other stakeholders are watered down by the same. I'm still waiting for the Deputy CEO to be online. Let me back the studios as we wait for him. Starting with you, Professor, looking at the safety of our tourists.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, safety of tourists starts with the person who is handling this tourist. So in this case,
is it the hotel? Is it the UA? Is it the national park they have visited? Is it the government? Is it the tour and travel company?
Yes, I'm going to put it in categories. Level number one is you who has brought this visitor here. You are responsible to give safety guidelines as soon as the visitor arrives in the country. So as you pick the visitor from the airport, all the guidelines, you must really guide this individual because you are actually responsible. But then as soon as you take this visitor to the hotel, then the hotel now picks it from there as far as security and safety is concerned. And safety here, we're looking at issues to do even with food security and food safety, etc. As soon as they move to the national parks, then of course Uganda Wildlife Authority now takes over. On the road to the national parks and other places, the driver guide now takes over. But overall, we have got the government of Uganda, the security machinery that is supposed to be responsible. And that's why when we are discussing issues of security, we are looking at different actors playing different roles, but of course coordinated by government, because any stage when the safety of a visitor is interfered with, of course the government has got to come in. And that's why the government has actually created the tourism police to coordinate all this. So I must say that at the different nodes, any person who is handling, when a visitor handler is supposed to be taking lead to ensure safety to our visitors, because if safety is interfered with, then it has got image issues, and that affects the destination marketability.
Interesting. Mauku, what do you do in hotels to ensure that our tourists are safe from the time they enter Uganda to the point they have to say bye-bye to us?
Well, thank you for the question. I would begin from the point where the professor raised on who is the first responsible person. The first responsible person is the tourist himself or herself. Before you fly into Uganda, you must be insured from wherever you came from. And when you get into the hotel, that is what you have asked specifically. The hotel has its own occupational safety and health policy. It's meant to have anyway. Not all of them have, but hotels at certain level have those policies, especially those that we deal with. They have such policies that cover all their guests while in the hotel. However, these guests will move out of the hotel to go into the national park or to visit.
Sorry, Mr. Moses, we have the Deputy CEO online. Hello? Hello? You are live on UBC.
Yes, sir. I'm having it.
You are live on UBC, sir. Hello?
He appears to be doing
Yes,
other
sir.
things.
You are live on UBC. Most welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Just 1 minute. Hello?
You're most welcome on UBC. You are live and clear.
Yes, sir.
You may introduce yourself to the people of Uganda and greet them as well.
Yes, good morning, listeners. My name is Bradford Ucheng, Deputy CEO of Uganda Tourism Board.
Interesting, and we're glad to have you, sir, on the show. We're discussing the repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, and we're asking ourselves, are we really on course?
Well, I think, yes, we should be on course. Coming from a lockdown, 2.5 years, people were not traveling. And I think you and me would see that so far, so good. The borders are open. If you take example, Kenya, Rwanda, before the lockdown, we used to have over 400 visitors coming to Uganda. Between January and September, we are having almost 260, meaning we are almost 3/4 of what we used to have before the lockdown. So I think before COVID-19, I would say by end of next year, we should be really back. Yes, we are on course.
Interesting. What are the contributions that we are getting from the same industry? I mean tourism as a country.
Well, tourism, there are many intrinsic values, let alone the money that the farms get directly. One, it is the sector with the longest value chain. If you look at a traveler right away from the airport through the transportation system, going to the restaurant, visiting the tourist destination, so many touch points. Whether there is money or not, it is a sector that brings happiness. When people travel, they learn a lot. They open their frontiers of knowledge. When people travel, they make friends. When people travel, they become happy. It is a sector that is very inclusive. It is a sector that brings in the distribution. If you have 140 plus districts, unlike other sectors where if you take, for example, minerals, you may not have minerals in Kampala, but there's tourism. Every district has something to offer in terms of tourism. And if you have the government program of a parish development model, it is again a model that really ties well with the tourism, because every parish would actually have something to show. So in brief, I would say it is a sector really that brings in happiness. It's a sector that distributes income. It's a sector that really can radiate well with all Ugandans. So I think, again, I really want to say that before COVID, we used to have over 1.6 billion worth of value in terms of exports. So what the country would get from tourism. And I would say that for long, it has been one of the leading sectors really of the economy.
Right.
That is also why it is being prioritized under NDP. If you look at NDP 1, NDP 2, NDP 3, tourism has been a priority sector. And that ties in well really that is a very important sector. Thank you.
Deputy CEO, in 1995, tourism revenues mounted to 78 million US dollars and about 1.4% of the gross national product. And that corresponds to 160,000 tourists at the time, and roughly 488 US dollars per person. From then to 2022, we see the same 1.4% of the gross national product, as if we have not shifted. Is there any development of the tourism sector in Uganda from 1995 to 2022? Are we really developing, or we have taken a back step?
Well, I'm not sure about your source of data. If you went even to the BOU, what they call the tourism satellite account, the figures there are usually in billions. So I'm just telling you that before COVID, we're earning 1.6 billion. And I think the nearest export that we used to have then was coffee. That was slightly below 600 million. So you can see, I'm just saying that I'm not sure where you're getting the data from. In terms of employment, indirect employment, you're having over 1 million. Directly before COVID, we're having over 600 employees within the tourism sector. So again, this is a very big sector. I am sure even if you look at it in terms of the hotel industry, you look at it in terms of the tour operations or travel, if you look at it in terms of agriculture, I think you'll just see that really it is a sector that touches on all. So I'm not, again, I want to say that I'm not sure the data source you're using. Yeah.
That was World Data Info. But speaking of the COVID-19, and now we have Ebola, which has in any way antagonized the tourism industry. As UTB, how are you preparing yourselves to remain relevant but also to remain in the business of tourism amidst all these challenges?
Well, some of these are exogenous issues that really you may not put your hand on. But again, I'm comforted that as Uganda, it's not the first time we are experiencing Ebola. We've been to a worse situation before. And from where I stand, I still think that we shall get out of it just the way we got out of the last time we had Ebola. And again, as you've been following in the reports, I think from the Ministry of Health, the competent authority, I think we are almost there. We're almost there. Definitely, the disruptions are there. There's no doubt. Fear is there. There's no doubt. But I think with our experience, it gives us comfort really that sooner than later we shall get over it. Thank you.
Interesting. Before I let you go, how are you positioning yourself in the regional and global market when we still have Kenya, Tanzania dominating the East African market, and South Africa take lead in Africa. Where is the position of Uganda, and how are you positioning yourself as a country?
Well, I think for us, if you look at some of the data, those that we've been given by EU and WTO, you find that the 10 most fastest growing destinations in terms of tourism, actually Uganda was number 3. Uganda was number 3. Of course, the situation could be different now, but it will be number 3. Like between 2020, actually the data was 2020 to 2026. Uganda was 3rd out of the 10 fastest growing economies between this period. I think now that we are even getting back to to business, I still think that we are well. As UTB, definitely we are working very, very closely with our partners. We're working very closely with the embassies, all our 34, 35 diplomatic missions, and the 90 consulates that we have all over the world. We are working with them, and luckily government has prioritized tourism. All these missions now have a tourism budget, and we've trained them. We're working very close with them. Definitely, South Africa is a big economy. Kenya is also a big economy, but we want to look at as Africa as a bigger destination. We want to look at as Africa, East Africa as a bigger destination, so that when visitors come to Kenya, visitors go to wherever they go, they also look at Uganda as one as part of the circuit. So if we work together, definitely we even achieve more. I think where we are now, I don't want to say that we are really competing, because we have very unique products. If you look at the Big 5, we have the Big 5 plus 2. The other 2, Chims and Gorillas, just in Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo DR. So these are some of the products that we have that may not be there. If you look at our products in terms of culture, Uganda is one of the most diverse countries in the world, number 4 in the world, and this comes with food, comes with the dressing, comes with the language, comes with other experiences. So again, we are unique. So we just want to say that as Ugandans, let's make our country peaceful. Let's sell the country. You in the media, you are also a marketer in your own right.
Okay.
So let's work together, and I'm very convinced that really, but being a very happy nation, we should be able to talk more about this.
Mr. Bradford, concerned Uganda had a concern that our marketing strategy perhaps is not that good to promote our country. Speaking of the same, we see the budget being reduced from 197 billion to 178. Is it government trying to divert from the tourism industry because we are not benefiting a lot?
Again, as I said, we want to work more smartly, very differently. Again, as I said, don't look at the tourism budget as budget from UTB, budget from Wildlife Authority, budget from maybe Ministry of Tourism, budget from. I have just told you that the way we budget now is a program approach to budgeting. Even our embassies have grown.
Okay.
They have tourism money. They have tourism budget. So all this put together, it's more than the 170 or 197 you're talking about. It's actually more than that.
All right.
You just need to be smart, and now also with the technology, with IT, I think we should be doing things differently. Really, we should be able to be more efficient with the resources that we have, and you and me, we work together. I think we have a lot of money that really or another should be able to penetrate and reach out to many travelers. Yes.
Interesting. We had just launched Uganda Explore Uganda, and then we bring the Pan African Expo. Why?
Yes, the Explore Uganda, the PAL is really our brand ID. That is the destination brand. That is a brand that we developed. We launched in January last year. It's really identity that you and me should embrace. You and me should speak with one voice. You and me should move with this brand and try to reach out to as many prospective tourists as possible. The Pearl of Africa Expo is our signature event that occurs once a year, and the next year we're having it in Uganda in February, just to be exact, 8th to 11th February. This is an event. This is an expo, like the name says, an expo. So really, we want really to tell the world, to tell the buyers that there's a lot that you need to work together. There's a lot that you can show to you. There's a lot that you can write about Uganda in terms of tourism, and this is really an event. The Pearl of Africa brand, again, as I said, that's a destination brand. Is an ID, brand identity that we want really to use to market destination Uganda. So let's not mix them. One is an expo, an exposition. Really, we want to really show the world that these are the unique products that we have. Come and visit the Pearl and all that. So those are, one is an event and the other one is an identity.
All right. Your way forward, Mr. Ojing?
My way forward really is we have a very good product. Destination Uganda is a very, very good product. I think our listeners, our viewers, we want to say that this country called Uganda is a product that really, if we embrace it well, if we market it well, I think it's going to deliver us very, very, very soon to the middle income status. And we need to play our role. We need to, to market the country. And by so doing, I think the dividend will be for all of us. And it's a product that is really easy to sell. We have quite a lot of unique things in this country. And with the good leadership, with the good strategy, I think the sky should really be the starting point for us.
Interesting. Thank you, Mr. Bradford Ocheng, and greetings to the people of Uganda Tourism Board.
I want to thank you, BC, so much for giving us the opportunity to talk to our people.
Thank you for sharing your opinions with us. That was Bradford Ochieng, Deputy CEO, Uganda Tourism Board, sharing his opinions with us on UBC Ground Zero. And we thank you for your time and all of you who have spared time to listen. Let me get back to the studio. I must apologize to you, Mauku, for cutting you short, but we had an online guest. I'm giving you a minute as you conclude on the safety point.
Okay. What I was putting across is the fact that the safety of a tourist begins with him or herself. To be careful, because when you go into a national park, you need to observe the guidelines as given to you by the person guiding you, but you also have to secure insurance for yourself, because the inevitable is always there. And the other is that it is generally the responsibility of government for any tourist that enters Uganda, generally. However, whoever at any point in time is handling or dealing with this tourism takes responsibility for his or her safety and health. The other thing that I wanted to make mention is, which is in relation to safety and health, are the pandemics that are now a very big challenge to the tourism sector development in Uganda. We had COVID, and it ravaged more to do with the tourism sector and the aviation in the beginning, though education suffered a little longer than the rest of the other sectors. And the effects of COVID-19 are not to be explained. Everybody is aware. Now we have Ebola. Currently, again, the effects of Ebola have begun biting deep into the operations of tourism. As I speak now, by yesterday, while in the office, I received two calls from two of our employers in Fort Portal, whose operations are totally down, that they are calling to stop some of the employees. They cannot sustain. They have moved through November virtually without business. October, they have started November. Again, they have no bookings. All bookings have been cancelled. All reservations have been stayed. Under the circumstances, we are beginning to get again problems, even affecting employment. However, while we have Ebola, the other problem that I have, or that I want to share with the public, is on one part, you people, the media people, you are fond of reporting negatively. Everything you report in the negative, and yet tourism is one of the most fragile sectors, especially to information. One word or 3 words in a newspaper can cause cancellations. This is not the first time we are having Ebola in Uganda, like the Deputy CEO, UTB, has also mentioned. It's not the first time we are having Ebola. Ebola in Uganda has always been managed, and it will always be managed. Even this one will be controlled. But the way the media reports, Ebola strikes, Ebola kills this, it is not in the positive. It is all scaring. But we are over 44 million Ugandans. 40 people are not yet too many. And yet the controls have been made by government. So it's important that we learn to report positively. If you brought a story in a manner that shows that it is a manageable situation, unlike when you put a blatant statement, Ebola strikes Uganda, before you even mention how many people, the person who is reading will take it very seriously. I was watching the news 2 days ago when the American ambassador went to visit the districts. They found the situation is not that scaring. It has been contained. It is being contained anyway. So it is important that our media learns to report in the positive, because some of these reports affect the tourism immensely. And sometimes also, I don't want to castigate government, but some of the reports or the situation is escalated because some people expect a fortune out of problems. So it is important that we manage this thing in a fair manner. And secondly, it is the issue of personal interest or mismanagement of affairs. People have always talked about budget. But even the current budget, if well utilized, it can reap a lot for Uganda. So it is necessary and important that those of, the public servants especially, to allocate these monies for its purpose and intention, and involve the people who are the right actors in the tourism development, and to try and ensure that these activities, these tourism attractions, are properly coordinated and regulated by the government. Because recently I passed the source of the Nile. It is so ashaming, the type of structures today at the source of the Nile. It is as if we are operating in a vacuum, where there is no guidance, where there is no local government there to guide the people on how they will put together their structures. It is like a local market, this auction. You are entering into a national touristic attraction, the source of the Nile, international. So somehow, government, actually, for me, I hail from the Bugwere Kingdom. We participated in this law, the current law about the tourism, the heritage. So we have put together our issues there. Let all these tourism sites and all attractions be properly structured, and government must take interest even when they are going to be, they are being developed by an individual or by a cultural institution. Government must agree with these partners on the type of structures that they want to see, so there is some kind of uniformity in what we are presenting. That is when they are talking about product development.
All right.
Because if the product is developed anyhow, then it has issues. And then lastly, lastly is on the issue of the working conditions. Most of the things that we see and complain in the hotels, in the tourism facilities, it is because of the working conditions of the people that are actually offering these services. There is a lot of informality in the private sector, too much informality. People who are offering these services to our international guests are not properly trained, are not properly remunerated, they are not properly taken care of by those that employ them.
Interesting.
So these
Stephen?
are issues that require concern and attention by the concerned parties.
And Stephen is one of the concerned parties, and Uganda Wildlife is also a party to this.
Definitely.
How have you ensured that our tourists are safe? When we hear that a tourist has been killed by an elephant, and a Saudi tourist is drowned in the river Nile, and many others, which
thank
taint
you.
the image of Uganda.
Yeah, thank you, Aman. I think
As if you have not sensitized our visitors upon reaching here.
Thank you, Aman. I think I want to concur with my colleagues that the safety and security, those words actually generally come, is a responsibility of a number of agencies, the government at the top, because once you're here, you're a guest of the government of Uganda, and therefore there are some things that the government will do to protect you. But of course, the tour operator that you're driving with, the hotel that you stay. Now, when they deliver you to Uganda Wildlife Authority, we also have our safety and security protocols that we follow. Most of these are shared with our tour operators. They appear in form of guidelines in briefing to our guests that people should see on our websites before they come. But once you are in Uganda Wildlife Authority hands, we do a very thorough briefing of do's and don'ts. We obviously have basic things like reduce speed limits in the park, because then you can knock wildlife and also get injured in the process. Don't go close to wildlife because there is a danger in doing so. Wear some protective gear if you are climbing a mountain, and so on, and things like those. And there are things that you not carry with you if you are moving, and do not feed the animals or bring them closer. All those things could happen. Because some of our protected areas live closer to the border or they are transboundary, we work very closely with the government protection forces, UPDF, to protect the borders. And also along the road, if there are incidents arising out of the transactions or bad relationship with the tour operator, we have the tourism police that we work with to ensure that problems like those are resolved. But by and large, yes, the safety of the tourists is in the hands of the guide who is trained. That's why we encourage people to use trained guides. When you come with us, we assign you a guide and you work with us. But beyond the safety, I want to bring a few assurances, because we are coming to Christmas. We're only 1 month away. And despite what is happening, we want to assure people that Uganda is safe. The country is safe. The health situation is being controlled, and I think government and the Ministry of Health and our tourism partners, the UTB and the ministry, have done well to reassure people. And that's why you say the ambassador went over to that area to reassure people. Sometimes we overplay such situations, but we give you guidance and guidelines to behave so that you don't injure yourself. Okay. So we want to invite people to the protected areas. We want to bring you to some of these resources. You want to come to Windy and see the gorillas. We have said, and one of my colleagues mentioned that we may not have in other places distinguished or categorized pricings for the different people. But for us, in our pricing system, we have prices for East Africans, prices for visitors who reside here who have work permits, and prices for people that are actually visiting. So those should encourage you to come and see one of the unique World Heritage Sites.
Okay.
Some of the nature and beauty that people come to see in the savannah parks and mountain forests and all those things, we want people to come and enjoy. And we don't want to miss this opportunity when people are recovering and getting out of the really bad 2 years, not to come and plan with us, because we have the ability, we have the buses to take you there, we have the product which we protect. In fact, our real purpose is to protect and ensure
the natural resources in those environments are protected for yourselves now as the current generation, but also for future generations.
All right.
So we don't want it to pass by and then you do not even come and put your footprint in supporting conservation in Uganda. Yes.
Interesting. Thank you so much for your opinions on the safety, because the safety of our tourists, these are our visitors, and when they come, if anything happens to them, stops the others who are potential tourists. Gentlemen, allow me to take another direction. Repositioning Uganda in the regional, continent, and global market. Let's see our position and how best can we go to that direction. Starting with you, Professor. Kenya is leading us, and Tanzania. If you are to look at the most places that have been invested in East Africa, you would realize that majestic mountain Kilimanjaro in the savannah, the Masai Mara Plains, the Masai warriors, the elephants in Serengeti, and many others. And you will not find Uganda anywhere. South Africa is taking in the continent. How best can we reposition ourselves in order to tap into the opportunities in the region, in the continent, but also in the global market? Wilbur?
Thank you. One thing I must tell Ugandans first is Uganda is among the top 10 destinations in Africa. And of course, you are right. Kenya and Tanzania, of course, South Africa above us as far as Africa is concerned. Ugandans also need to understand that, the international tourist arrivals, which is way above 1.2 billion, Africa gets a mere 50 million visitors. That's a very, very, very tiny percentage. And yet, in terms of attractions, we have a lot. So of course, we begin from there to see why is it like that. Now, of that 50 million that we receive in Africa, again, I think majority go to South Africa, then followed by North Africa, and then East Africa follows. And then those who come to East Africa, in terms of numbers, Mr. Masab already said we get about 1.5 million. By the way, that number is almost comparable to Tanzania and Kenya. Tanzania, I think, in terms of numbers, gets much less. But in terms of receipts, the earnings, Tanzania tops. What does that one mean? Uganda, leisure tourists are fewer. They are about 30%. The rest, I think, those are people who are coming to visit us and whatever, who are not big spenders. Now, in Tanzania and Kenya, more than 75% of their visitors are actually actual tourists, what I can call leisure tourists who spend money in their destinations. The spenders, the real spenders. So for us, I think we get people coming to visit us and they are not actually spending money. So back to your question, how do we position ourselves? Every destination to qualify to be a tourism destination, you must first of all identify what we call iconic potentials, things that put you way above others. And for Uganda's situation, yes, Kenya, known for safari, it is near the sea, so we cannot compete with it when it comes to cruises that come from Australia and other places. Tanzania, in terms of big game and so many things, it's near the coast. But Uganda has got a unique advantage when it comes to mountain gorillas, because you'll not find them elsewhere. We have got the biggest groups, the biggest groups in terms of the group individuals, but also in terms of number. So you go to Windi, we have a number of groups in Buhoma, we have habituated groups in Nkuringo, Ruhija, in Rushaga, and so many entries. If you go to Magahinga, we have got another tourist group, of course, which interchanges with Rwanda. So that's where we have an advantage, that even a tourist who wants to see mountain gorillas in the whole world must come to the Virunga. And this is Uganda, Rwanda, and Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, it gives us an advantage. Of course, our neighbors in Congo, there are some issues there. So anybody who wants to see gorillas must go through either us or Rwanda. Now, because we have many groups, we can position ourselves. So Uganda must capitalize on gorillas. But what is happening now is for you to get to the gorilla area, to Windi, it is too tough. The roads from Kabara are really in a sorry state. If you go from Kisoro to Nkwiringo area to Mugahinga, the roads are in sore state. But I thank government because I know among the tourism roads that they have prioritized, those roads have been prioritized, and I think very soon it's going to be. Now, you use these iconic resources to be able to package others. And I implore my brother in UWA and Uganda Life Authority in general that we can tag on this iconic resource, that if you tour this and you add another pack or 2 packs, then you have got a discount. So we market, we play around that to make sure that we encourage people to visit other parks in the country.
All right.
And then, of course, share other cultural resources and other things. So we can easily position ourselves and be way above Kenya and Tanzania.
Interesting. Our time is fast spent, and we have a lot that we need to discuss. Perhaps we are going to use a few seconds or minutes to put our ideas into this context. Manguku, I thought I would pick all your ideas on the same, but now that time is really not our friend, and now that I will really address that very well, allow me go to another issue. Manguku, Uganda Tourism Board has been fighting the minimum standards in the accommodation facilities, and because of that, it launched a sensitization drive of all the stakeholders in tourism, especially you and the hotel industry, to regulate the mandate and minimum standards of this. But if we keep on sheltering this, don't you think it waters down all the efforts and the energies that we have put to promote the tourism sector?
Standards are a good measure for anybody who is interested in developments that are systematic. And it is important for us to have.
And you also made mention some time back that the Kenyans are taking lead in Uganda, are investing here. Maybe they have understood that we are lacking these standards and have brought the same standards here, and we, the investors in Uganda, are complaining about the same.
You know, we have serious issues in some of these systematic issues. One is that from the time privatization was conducted, most of these hotels that are at the level of star 2 and 5 were government hotels, facilities. But during privatization, all these facilities were bought by businessmen who had money, but not professionals within the hotel industry. Many of them do not actually appreciate the value and the importance of the profession, and they do it as a business. One time I worked, when I was still working with the hotels, I worked with one of the rich men around who had about 6 hotels in a chain. But he used to say, why do you bother with these people? Serving food, even me, I can serve. Picking food from which has been cooked and plated, and you put it here. Does it need training? So we have such employers, and there are many who think that anybody can do hotel work. And they have compromised the service. They have compromised so many things. They want to see the beauty, not professionalism, in their facilities. So we have that as a challenge. And if we don't observe standards, we shall still continue to have these problems. While they do complain, it is necessary and important that standards are emphasized. However, Revenue Authority was trying to educate people, these people need information. The level of involvement has been wanting. I must tell you that several times we have had complaints and challenges. When the Ministry of Tourism and OUTB is instituting something that affects a number of actors, many of the people are not involved. A few people, because they want to have the share of the money, involved. They will pick a few people, go somewhere in a hotel and sit and determine certain things without involving the people. These policies or systems are going to affect. And that is the problem that we have. People always want to deny because they have not been involved. But they have heard the wind that there was a meeting which discuss this matter. Now you're just coming to tell us do this. So people will always have that reaction. I also wanted to make mention of one other thing, is that I think we need to continuously remind those actors in government to always involve those that are concerned with what they are trying to plan for them. Otherwise, they will be rejected. And I want to advise Uganda Wildlife Authority on the other matter that you have skipped. There is one thing that I've been mentioning, even when I'm on UBC TV. Domestic tourism must be promoted, because without it, the sustainability is not going to be realized.
All right.
And one trick that I have shared is that if you want to get us as parents to go to these conservation areas, make it complementary for children between 1 maybe to 15 years, that they shall be having a free entry into the parks, so that they will pester the parents to take them there.
All right.
It is a trick that will make many people get in, because very many watch TV. So if we promote this complimentary for children, the children will force us to take them to these facilities.
Stephen,
so
pick it from there.
It's a trick
thank you.
that you need to borrow.
Thank you for
Moses has a proposal, 3 to 15 free entrance.
Or 18.
Or 18.
Well,
But speaking of the same, because I could not skip the domestic tourism, we had programs like Tulambure, which was, I think, a domestic kind of campaign to promote tourism. We had Bubu, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. We're encouraging people to buy our shoes, to buy our hats, to buy crafts and art. But we see you are giving less attention to these domestic projects, but you're promoting Dubai Expo and this Pearl of Africa, Explore Uganda. What are those efforts and energies that you are putting to promote the domestic tourism? In a minute?
Yeah, thank you, Amon. I want to take it from the suggestion that we could make a complimentary entrance for. One, in our pricing system, I have mentioned we have Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, which is an organized pupil student clubs that want to visit. We give them to enter the parks at 2,000 shillings only. That's quite a small figure. But we also have for students, tertiary institutions, university and the like, they only pay 5,000. And you, the adult, me and you pay 20,000. And while the Mzungu pays $40, which is like about 120. So we do have already catered for this because we want to encourage them to come. But also, too, you want to grow a culture where students know how to value what they see. If you have conserved the lion and you put in the resources and the gorilla and so on, they also want to pay something and they make it aspirational to come and see. So that they don't see it and then just dump it because it costs them nothing. The other issue about what we're doing and to promote domestic tourism. Truly, following COVID, we see the numbers of Ugandans increasing. Initially, it was a ratio of 30% to 70% foreigners. Now, it is about 50-50. So 50% of the Ugandans visit the protected areas. And why? Because they have discovered these resources are there. We need to do more awareness.
All right.
What are we doing? Of course, we have buses which people can use to access these protected areas. We do give familiarization trips. So if a group wants to come and some of them cannot afford, we give them rebates for them to come. If you want, we're also encouraging Ugandans to do filming in the national parks at almost very negligible fees so that people can. But also importantly, we have invited investors to come and invest in the protected areas in some products and services. Accommodation in the past was a challenge, but we are putting
domestic
in
investors or foreign investors.
All we need all. We want, we want people who can invest in high-end lodges so that visitors who have the money can pay. We also want those who can put in medium and low-end visitors, especially school groups and so on, so that can do. But also more importantly, the products.
And
some people want adventure products. We have those on water. On water, you talked about redevelopment and use of the Nile. We have boats on River Nile in Maxon and so on. And we also have people who want to hike mountains. We also have people that can support them, but also children, school activities.
All right.
If your children cannot see a gorilla, you can go and do children activities to keep you busy while the parents. And I wanted to mention the price of the gorilla, because as we say, it's an iconic, a good product that brings people here. Ugandans pay only 250,000. And we're also thinking we're tapping into East African market, because we want market. Sudan, Southern Sudan is part of this. Burundi is one of these, and that's why we participate into East African Tourism Expo. Call people to see, and when they market the region. People go to Masai Mara, want to come and see gorillas, and then you go to and then do a circuit in East Africa. We want people to do that. And we're also partnering with people, hotels and all those people that have their own activities and events. We support them so that they do events and then link them up to tourism for marketing.
Interesting. Our time is really taking us not so good. We are likely to end from here, but before I end, I will pick your ideas in only seconds. I request. We are having and experiencing an outbreak, Ebola, in Uganda, and has taken a toll on the hospitality industry, with many that would be the tourists cancelling their booking. What is your take on that? All of you advise our tourists who would love to come here, both domestic and foreign. Let me start with you, Stephen, in seconds.
With the same principles and practices for prevention of Ebola incidents or attack is very similar to the one that we used for COVID-19. We do have the same preventive measures. We sensitize the people on being clean and avoid direct contact with persons and all reporting cases.
Okay.
I think the good thing is people are traveling, they are sensitized, and they have been to some of these countries where
they should keep coming.
People are coming, and we want to encourage people to just follow the standard practices of avoiding Ebola, and then you come and visit, because surely Uganda is largely safe if you do the right things, and we do not want this to be a disruption in our economy anymore.
Mauku.
Thank you. I also wish to join my brother Stephen by just encouraging the tourists and all the people in Uganda to keep their bookings and confirm, because even for the Fort Portal area or the Rwenzori area that go through the district that has been earmarked for that problem, the vehicles are moving through the district. There is no big issue. We encourage everybody to just observe the SOPs, and we continue with business normally.
Professor
I also want to
Wemba.
encourage the workers to work diligently as we wait for business. It's not a very big problem that won't be solved.
Thank you. Professor Wilbur.
Ebola is not a new thing in Uganda. Our government has effectively handled this. We have managed COVID. COVID was actually more deadly than Ebola. So I encourage all our visitors, international, regional, and national, to continue visiting the country, because we have got all the safety systems, SOPs, in place as far as the entire value chain is concerned.
Thank you. I expected all of us talk about Rolex, which has been the most favorite in as far as tourism sector is concerned, because it is one that has put Uganda on the map. Anyway, I'm giving you only 1 minute to give your way forward, your last comment, starting with you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Dear listeners, Uganda is a very beautiful country. I've visited very many countries in the world. I find Uganda the most beautiful, from south to north, east to west. So I encourage Ugandans to love their country and to work for it. Please, those who have money and are able to have trips, please visit our country. And I encourage all those who are working with the tourism sector, let us really focus on serving our country effectively, so that we can develop this sector. And I encourage all regional people who are interested in visiting Uganda, that Uganda is the best place you can visit and have nice time.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Moses Mauku.
Comment is to advise that government, people that are handling tourism, try to put the resources to the right use, try to use digital forms of promotion of tourism so that we can capture bigger numbers of tourists coming to Uganda. I also want to advise the employers within the tourism sector to observe workers' rights and treat workers fairly.
Okay.
Allow workers to observe representation as the law requires, and also encourage the workers to work diligently so as to earn a living continuously. I salute all Ugandans and listeners to this program.
Interesting. Stephen?
Yes, Uganda Wildlife Authority has continually protected the wildlife and the resources in the national parks and the reserves for you. It is coming to Christmas. We want to encourage you to start planning. We have information on our website. You can pay easily through mobile money, direct transfers to us, and we can answer your queries. We are based in the protected areas, but if you're in Kampala, we are based at Kamocha because we are waiting for you for Christmas, because we have prepared that this should be a unique turnaround time for you to explore Uganda and know what is around you. This resource is for you, and we want to encourage you to plan ahead so that between Christmas time to January, you are with us in the wild. This could be your time to remember in all your lifetime.
Interesting. That brings us to the end of UBC Ground Zero in today's edition, when we're talking about tourism industry sector and discussing repositioning Uganda's tourism industry, and we were asking ourselves that are we really on course? And indeed, according to the discussion and the conversation that we had, tells and assures everyone that indeed Uganda is on course. I must apologize to you, the callers who made it to reach us on our telephone, but we had issues with our phone. I saw you, Juma, calling in, and many others, but we were unable to pick some of your calls because we had a technical issue. And I promise that next time we're going to work on our machine, and we're going to have more of your opinions next program. You can keep the conversations going on all of our social media platforms. We are on YouTube, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, and that is UBC Radio. Ampaire Amon Obtega is my name, and it was a privilege to have Stephen Sanyi Masaba, Director Tourism and Business Development, Uganda Wildlife Authority. And thank you, Moses Mauku, General Secretary, Uganda Hotels, Tourism and Supermarkets. And many thanks to you, Professor Wilbur Ahebwa, Professor of Tourism from Makerere University. And also we had Bradford Ochieng, Deputy CEO, Uganda Tourism Board, for making time to speak to the people of Uganda and sharing your ideas with us on UBC Ground Zero. Indeed, as many said, we are coming to the holiday, Christmas holiday. Please come and visit all these places in Uganda. They have assured you that we have the best places in the region and in the continent. And we must know that we have all the opportunities in the tourism industry that range from constructing high-quality accommodation facilities, operating tour and travel circuits, development of specialized eco and community tourism facilities, and faith-based tourism such as pilgrimages at Namugongo, Uganda Matters, Mahatma Gandhi Statue, and Bishop Hannington landing site on the Nile. And steadily growing tourist numbers are estimated to have reached 1.5 million per year, contributing to 7.7% of our GDP. I worked with Bob Brian Mugisha, Bonnie Acheng, and Hilary Katurebe, and many thanks to Acquisitive Director Doreen Ndezi and Msimenta Allen. From all of us at UBC, we wish you all the best, and many thanks to you who are on radio and online, and many thanks to you, our guests, that spared time to speak to the people of Uganda. And we keep educating, inspiring, and informing you, the people of Uganda. From all of us, and Ampaire Amon Obtega, allow me to sign out for God and my country.
That was Ground Zero Season 2, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda. It's It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody showed. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero Season 2, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Don't miss UBC Radio Ground Zero every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We host credible and relevant guests to discuss pertinent issues of national importance aimed at addressing people's concerns.
As a country, if we don't fight this vice of corruption seriously and with honest opinion without any bias, things will not be good for us.
UBC Radio Ground Zero, right here on UBC Radio.
UBC, ensure that the information you give out is factual but also objective, balanced, and complies with the legal and policy requirements for the media.
Ground Zero program is always live, loud and clear, every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on UBC Radio, Butebo FM, West Nile FM, and Magic 100 FM, and live stream on YouTube. You can also listen to the repeated broadcast of UBC Ground Zero every Sunday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
We broadcast 24/7. Listen to UBC radio shows right here, right now.